Hey again, it's Will. We're back for another video, and I'm here today with my friend Michael.
Hello, it's good to be here. And what we're doing today is we're looking at how do we handle unfamiliar situations such as a get-together with mostly people we don't know when someone has a diagnosis of autism. And William, Mr. Lived experience of a diagnosis with autism, how do you handle unfamiliar new situations?
Unfamiliar situations are scary, and I don't think they stop being scary. So I've been in a lot of situations now where I've gone to a place with people who I mostly don't know, and had to introduce myself and kind of not just be a wallflower, not just hang around in the corner. And it is nerve-wracking every time. It does make you nervous every time. But it does get easier.
Okay.
Even though you feel nervous, it's a lot easier to get over that initial nerve, those initial nerves, as you grow.
Awesome. Okay. So let's tap into something you said. So let's imagine mum or dad are here. They know their child gets nervous, okay, going to new events. Maybe their child's only in year 3 or 4 and their child doesn't have the vocabulary. What are the thoughts going through your head as a neurodivergent person going into a new-ish situation? What are the fears or what are the thoughts or what's going through your head?
Yeah, well, look, the first thing is how do I go and introduce myself to someone? And
how do I get started?
Yeah, how do you break into that new space? Because I think that's the scary part, is like that fear of I'm going in this place with a whole bunch of new people. Am I going to get rejected? And so that initial step of knowing how to like enter a conversation, how to break in, how to start a conversation with someone new is really, really important. I know when I was a lot younger, I used to really struggle with that. And a few times I got the advice of just go up and say hi to someone. So of course, my reaction to that was just to go up to someone random and say, hi. Now,
just
when
to
you're
follow
younger,
it word for word, literally, the advice you'd been given makes so much sense. Yeah,
exactly.
Thankfully, how did it
though,
work out when you did that?
well, when you're younger, you can kind of get away with stuff like that. As you get older, people start to become a bit more conscious of like social norms, how a conversation's supposed to go, and that's where it starts to become a problem. Now, luckily, I did get some social skills training, and I did learn a bit more how to start a conversation, how to hold a conversation, and that was really helpful for me going into those new places. Recently, actually, I had a really interesting situation where I went to LARP for the first time. And if you're not sure what LARP is it stands for live action role play. It's a bit like Dungeons and Dragons, if you've played that before, which is a game where you're acting as characters in a narrative. Now, this narrative can be anything. The one I went to in particular was like a fantasy narrative. So I dressed up in like a priest's garment, and I went and I played as this priest for the first time.
Okay, so just checking, I've got my head around this. The new group you were going to, it was like it's like when guys dress up to go and do like pretend medieval sword fighting, right? Except
Absolutely.
it slightly had a different, like more theatrical thing. Okay, so when you got there, what went through your head? How'd you deal with it?
Well, I was lucky that I had my best friend with me. But unfortunately, my best friend was just as nervous as I was. So when we first arrived, we kind of sat there and we were at the edge and we were looking around, and there were all these different clusters of people, and I had no idea what to do. I was super nervous for the first little bit, and then my training kicked in. So I've become a facilitator for the peers program, and the peers program actually has a really, really good method for joining a group conversation, which, as I looked around, I saw there were lots of groups having conversations. So what I did is I thought, right, I need to go and I need to start listening into what people are saying and start following those steps of introducing myself and starting those having those conversations with the group. And so I kind of turned to my friend and said, hey, let's go find someone to talk to. It is always easier when you've got a friend with you. But so I went to a group, I listened to what they were saying, and then I joined with a compliment was my strategy. I saw someone was wearing really cool armor, and I said, hey, I love your armor. And we got a conversation going.
Well done. That's 10 out of 10. Like, you push through there, you've been bold. And yeah. William is one of the facilitators at Amazing Skills of a social skills course that is for teenagers. And here you are using the same skills you're teaching your teenagers, which is amazing. And it's like, okay, so for you to do that, you had to push through a lot of barriers. You push through the barrier of where will I go? And then will I turn up? And then do I really want to be here? And then when you get there, you're like, who do I talk to? I feel stuck. And then you push yourself to go and have that conversation. Now, this is where in the fairy tale ending, everything's lovely. You walk out with 10 friends. I haven't chatted to you about this, but I'm guessing that's probably not what happened. What happened then?
Well, I mean, I was quite lucky in that I did end up with making a few friends, but it didn't happen straight away. And that's the really important thing. I came away from that first meeting with some new acquaintances. There were a few people who, you know, I messaged a few times on Facebook, and I'd made some people who were acquaintances, but they weren't my friends yet. It took going back to that thing a few more times before they became friends. So that's really important. You can't expect to just magically make friends straight away. It does take time, it does take investment, and that can be frustrating for some of our young people who just want things to happen right now.
Okay, that is true. What about when you were younger? Like, this is, you were very successful in this particular circumstance. What about, say, when you're in late primary school, early high school? How did you deal back then with unfamiliar situations, new situations? How did you maintain the emotional regulation to handle that and to handle it bravely?
Well, I'm actually getting flashbacks, Michael, to when my mum tried to make me do sports for the first time.
Right.
Now, being a young person with autism, I was extremely stubborn, and I hated sports.
Okay.
So when I went to that sporting get together, I was already not in a good place to socialize and make friends.
Yeah, because you're turning up already escalated before you even encounter whatever's there. That must make it hard to succeed.
Yeah. So really what ended up happening is I ended up just, I guess, almost sulking the whole time. And didn't really step out of my comfort zone, didn't talk to anyone new. I just ended up being in that space and playing sport when I had to play sport. And so because of that, I didn't actually make a lot of new friends. I think I had a friend that I came in with that we stayed friends. But other than that, like, I didn't make any new friends from that sporting group, or at least no friends that were permanent. I probably had a few acquaintances, but because I wasn't putting in that effort, it didn't go any further than that.
I hear you. But on top of that, I'm also thinking your mum worked so hard to get you to that point. Okay. Yeah. And she pushed through the pain barrier that morning, even getting you in the car. And she had you at sport. You did so well to get in the car that morning, to get out of the car at sport, to turn up with what you describe as a sulky attitude, which was really probably just an escalated attitude of shutdownness, you know, if that was a word. And you did great. And it's probably the fact that you're like, oh yeah, I did that season of sport. It's like, well, what a win. That means you didn't just do it once, you did it for like 20 times or something. And it's like, mum put in a lot of work, you were brave, you know. It's like, I guess when I hear that story, I think that's a success story. That's your mum helping you to grow skills so that you can handle like unfamiliar situations.
Totally. And like, reflecting on it now, it probably helped me to be more comfortable with unfamiliar people. Even though I wasn't making friends with those people, I became more comfortable in groups. And actually later in high school, kind of my own volition, I decided to play footy with a friend of mine.
Oh, wow.
yeah, and I ended up actually really enjoying that because I'd had that experience of knowing what it's like to be in a group of unfamiliar people in a team, and playing sport with them. So even though I was kind of sulky for that and grumbled every time we had to go, I think I got a lot out of it for my physical health, but also for my social health. It helped me to build those initial building blocks.
That's exciting. I just feel really encouraged by this story. I mean, obviously it didn't always go that well when you try to join new things or do new experiences. It's not always going to go well, but sometimes it does. We forget those good times. And I guess the issue is that as parents who are, especially those parents who they've only had a diagnosis for their child for the last 6 months or 12 months, they're very new to this. Okay. They don't realize when their William turns up to that sports event, he's not seeing the same event that mum's seeing. You know, like mum's going goals, couple of mums, couple of kids. What's that child seeing when he first turns up?
I mean, it's scary. I think something that maybe parents underestimate is how strange it is for a young person to be around parents who aren't theirs. I remember there were a lot of people who would help me in the team, but I didn't even know their name. They would come up and help me because they knew my mom and they knew about me from her, but I didn't really know them that well. So I think maybe introducing your young person to parents who they'll interact with is probably a really good start. And having that safe person who they know that they can go to. I mean, you're obviously that safe person, but maybe like a friend who you've known for a little bit, someone who you trust, maybe someone who's a family friend, and having that person be a secondary person for if they can't find you. So you know that person's around.
That's quality. And really, that's no different to taking your child to school. Day one, you set up with the teacher. Here's what works for my son. Here's what doesn't. You know, here's the communication channel. Here's where he can go as a safe place. It's like, well, okay, if it's a sporting team, you may not always be there, or he may be looking for you, can't find you. Who can he turn to? So you're right. If you're able to, a couple of those other parents, you've already talked to them. They already know that your child has additional needs. Well, like, let's take the extra step of introducing them so it's not weird for him when someone else's mum comes and tries to help you. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, definitely.
That's awesome. Well, I'm just delighted by what you're saying. I'm learning so much. What else?
I guess expect wibblies. Especially when you're starting out, expect wibblies. Expect things to go slightly wrong. I have this distinct memory of playing t-ball, which is the sport I was playing at the time. And I ran all the way around, almost got home, and then I got bowled out. No. As I was going to sit down, someone said, "Oh, bad luck, Will." And I took that as them saying, "I'm giving you bad luck for getting out." And I started bawling my eyes out because I'd misunderstood what this person had said. It all got sorted out in the end. But because I didn't have that social awareness, because I wasn't, because I took things very literally, I interpreted something that was very, very casual and meant to be supportive as something that was very insulting. So I guess Will, just be aware those misinterpretations do happen sometimes, especially in a place with so much jargon.
Yeah, and mum would be aware. You call them quibblies. That's a cool name for them. Like speed bumps, you know, mum knows there's going to be speed bumps or dad knows there's going to be speed bumps, but the other parents there don't. And the coach needs to know ahead of time there will be speed bumps. It's not, will there be speed bumps? It's there will be speed bumps. Here's what speed bumps will probably look like. Here's what will help Will to relax a bit if he hits a speed bump. But yeah, I'm like, yeah, the speed bumps, and mum knows that. And dad knows that, but then we can't let the fear of speed bumps stop us from having a crack, because you've got solid social skills. You know, you teach teenagers how to make friends. That's your part-time job, helping teenagers make friends, and you've walked their path. And it's like that wouldn't have happened if your mum hadn't chosen to be brave and accept that day there would be what you said, quibblies or speed bumps. You know, that's really cool. Well, William, hats off to you. I really appreciate you helping the parents who are watching this and the students who are watching this to get some confidence.
I can give one more little bit of encouragement.
Go
Um,
for it.
I think something like reflecting on all of this, I started off going to a sporting event where I was grumpy and didn't really interact with anyone. And now, last year, I went to a social event of my own volition, organized everything. My mom wasn't involved. I went and I introduced myself and I made friends on my own. Don't give up. Those initial sporting events that result in tantrums, those times where you have to kind of step in behind the scenes and help out, and make sure they've got that support in the background. They're all stepping stones to your young person becoming independent and empowered. So don't give up when it feels like they're pushing back, because it's just one more stepping stone, one more stepping stone. And just like making friends, it takes time and it takes investment and it takes experience. So keep going, keep pushing through, you'll get there.
Wow. I'm like, you know what? There's got to be some mums or dads who are watching this who are thinking of all these things for their sons or daughters. We would love you. We would invite you to write what works for you and your son or daughter in the comments below, because a lot of other parents are going to read that. While you're there, subscribe to our channel, please, because we have dozens of these sort of videos that we just want to support your family with. And if you're a young person with autism, well, maybe write down in the comments below what it's like for you when you go to unfamiliar situations, to new things, because then your parents or someone else's parents can learn from you, and that will help them. So yeah, how cool is that? Thanks for hanging out with us, Will, and we'll catch you on another episode.
Yeah, take care everyone and stay safe.
Hey, thank you for watching today's video. If you've had any experience with anything we spoke about in the video, feel free to leave a comment below. Sharing our experiences can be a great way to encourage people going through similar things. Also, if you like the sound of any of the programs we discussed in that video, feel free to check out our link below for more information on any of those.